Hey y'all, it's Amy. Today I'm sharing with you a video of myself doing a landscape swipe pour challenge that was given to me by Kathleen over at Cause Creations. I'm a member of her Patreon group, and she challenged her Patreons to do a landscape pour with a flip cup and a swipe. So that's what I'm doing here today, and I've done some of these before, and I wanted to change up my color palette a little bit. I'm slightly obsessed with pink, so I wanted to do a gorgeous pink sky and kind of a Caribbean blue sea. So as you can see here, I'm layering my cups for the flip cup, and I will put my colors down in the description box for you. I'm doing it a little bit differently with this pink. I'm putting gold in my sky. A little unconventional, but I wanted to kind of get a peachy shimmer look, and I think I actually do that pretty well in this. As stated before, my colors and recipes and favorite tools and must-haves for painting are going to be down there in that description box. And while you're down there, if you don't care, give me that thumbs up and subscribe. That really helps me on my journey. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hush up for a minute, and I'm going to let you guys watch, but I will be popping in to do some explanation. This was kind of a wild day when I was pouring this, and I had a horrible headache and kind of lost my way for a minute in it, and I want to explain that to you guys when I get there. I've got my finished sky here. It is dry. I let it sit overnight. And what I'm going to do is tape off my horizon line. You can do your sky and your ocean at the same time, but I like to do one, let it sit overnight, and then do the other. I feel like I get really crisp lines that way on my horizon. So what I'm doing right now is I'm taking my deepest color and I am putting it on my horizon line. But I went too close. Normally I do not get that close, and normally I don't let it go over the tape quite so much. But as stated before, I had a horrible headache and I was just barely functioning when I was doing this. So what I've done is I put my colors here, and what I usually do after I pour the striping on this, I will tilt it. What you see in the video that I do is that I start swiping it before I tilt it. I feel like everything I do from this part of the video on, I am literally doing backwards. I think my brain was just struggling big time. So we're gonna do as I say, not as I do. So just for the record, when you do a swipe, I recommend that you put your colors down on the bottom like I did there, then tilt, then swipe. I think you get the best results that way. But hey, if you don't, like I did, it still manages to turn out. So again, no stress. But here I go with that swipe. I should have tilted because it just eats it up. So now we know. Taking my paper towel and I'm dipping into my Australian Floetrol mix. And the Australian Floetrol gives you the little bubbly effects, gives you that lacing, gives you that sea foam look as you're putting it over your sand here. And it is just the most perfect thing to put on your beach. It looks so much like the sea foam that you get that gets washed up. Also, let me remind you that this video is really sped up. I really take my time with the swipe. It helps me steady my hand, and there's no need to rush. And by not rushing, you get better results. So I'd say this video, let me look, it is actually sped up 4 times. So that's a pretty big difference. So I am actually swiping very slowly. That I've got my ocean close to the way I want it, I'm taking a popsicle stick or stir stick and I am dipping it in some of my white mix with my satin enamels, and I'm tapping it onto the wave portion. This is to give it that little bit of sea foam and the crest of the waves, but it just takes a tiny bit because once that satin enamels gets in there, it kind of blooms out. And you will see that in the dried version that it got a little big on me in the left, but I'm still going with it. It's good, but it just takes a tiny bit. my painting has dried again overnight, I want to add in a sun for the sunset. So I am trying to figure out what size I want. My stencil there is not quite big enough, but I think this paper cup will do the job. So I'm just going to take and cut this cup and use the ring of the cup, and I just trace that shape onto my canvas. To color in my sun, I am taking some of the Folk Art Color Shift Pink Flash, and I am mixing it with a little bit of molding paste. I try it here first just with the paint, and it's just too translucent, and I decided it'd be nice to add a little bit of texture to it. So there I am adding that paste. For those of you who may be just starting to get into molding paste, Liquitex makes it in those squeeze bottles, and they come in so handy. I just love being able to squeeze some instead of getting out the tub and having to scoop it out. They also make it in coarse, and they have some of their other mediums in those squeeze bottles, and I just love that. Well, my sun just wasn't doing it for me, so now I've decided to add some gold to that modeling paste mix. And this is DecoArt 24 karat gold. So I literally mix it right up in that cup with the pink flash that I had in there. And now I'm going in with my little spatula, and I am just kind of muddling it up a little bit. I wanted some gold in there to match the shimmer of the sky. I know it's hard to see that shimmer, but it is in there and it is beautiful. Now I've taken some Golden Iridescent Pearl paint, and I am mixing it with some sand to make my own kind of rough texture paste. And I thought it was nice to use real sand on my sandy beach here. I mixed those things up to a medium consistency. So I've got a nice coarse gritty texture, and when it dries, it actually dries smoother than it looks when you're putting it on, and really does give the appearance that you have a sandy beach. Now I want to give a little texture to my waves, so I took the Liquitex light molding paste and the Golden Iridescent Pearl, and I mixed those together. And what I'm doing is I'm taking it on my knife here, and I am adding texture to the edge of my waves. This is one of my favorite things to do. I really love the way it adds dimension, and I will take it down in my sand too and give it a little extra on the sea foam. Now I'm going in with a liner brush, and I am deepening my horizon line just a little bit so that it doesn't get lost in there. And I'm using the deepest blue that I used for my water, and I'm just hand brushing that in. I'm also going to take that same color paint and put it underneath my waves to give it a little shadow, and that adds a lot of depth there. I'm going to go in and draw in some birds, and I forgot to turn my camera on when I walked away for a minute, but I started with one of my blue colors, and I think it was that same deep one that was on that liner. I put one layer, and then I even went a shade deeper, and then I took a little bit of a deep gray just to give it a little bit of dimension and shadowing on them. It's hard to tell in this video, And once again, forgot to turn the camera on, but I added a little bit of Kozo paper down there in my sand. And now I'm going in and adding some clouds because I thought my sun was just a little too boring and just kind of stood out too much. So I wanted to soften that. But then once I put him on the sun, the rest of the top of the painting looked a little empty. So now I'm adding in some tissue paper clouds. This tissue is very transparent, and actually the one up there in the top that I'm putting on now kind of disappears into that cloud, but in person you can see it well. And down there on the beach, that is a Kozo paper. It's a fiber paper that I ripped and tore, and it has like natural fibers in it of different grasses, and so it looks really good down there on that sand. Looks like seagrass. I'm applying the paper with a matte medium with a little paintbrush, a little cheap paintbrush, and I will rinse it out afterwards. But when I do this, I always make sure to use the cheapest one because, you know, it gums up your brush. We're almost done here. I'm not going to make you watch me put all these clouds in, but if you have made it this far, thank you so much. This is the finished project, and I think it turned out kind of cute. I love my pink skies. Thanks for watching, everyone. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next time down on the canvas.